What's up, guys? There's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One, I saw a video by Jeff Favignano. Yeah, that's his name. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce it right. And the guy that sent me the link to that video, I want to thank him, Decatur Player. I appreciate it. Um, that link was some further gameplay that was shown. Um, with Jeff Favignano playing, and it was very. I liked it. It was very solid. The gameplay and stuff. It was pretty much more of the same from what was shown in the live feed. But the one thing that stood out to me, there were two things that really stood out to me. One was not so good, and one was really good. Uh, the thing that was good was the final lap where he was racing um, Brad Keselowski, the AI version. And as I praised the AI in the live feed video, I I have nothing but praise. I saw something happen that I don't remember ever seeing in any NASCAR game, where the leader is actively trying to block you from passing them on the last lap. That was amazing. It was great to see, and as I said in the last video I made, I feel good vibes about this game. I see a lot of things to praise, but by the same token, there are things to criticize. Now, I'm not going to get too much into criticizing anything. I talked about most of the criticisms I have about the game up to this point. But the one thing I saw in the Jeff Favignano video was at one point he wrecked and the car flew in the air like 50 to 75 feet in the air, flipping. It was crazy. Um, it wasn't. I don't. It just. It was cartoonish. It was something that it does. Just the physics don't seem right at times. I've also seen in previous videos where the car coming out of the corner on a track, like maybe let's say a typical cookie cutter track, a mile and a half track, and you're coming out of turn 3 down the backstretch. A couple of times I saw where the guy hit the wall and the car just completely flipped around like it used to with the Utechnics games. The physics of that happening doesn't seem right. So hopefully they fix that. Again, this video is not about to really focus on that stuff. Just wanted to bring it up. A couple of things that I've seen with the physics that really need attention. That's it. The other thing I want to talk about, and the real basis behind this video, is I want to talk about the differences and this notion of someone being a hater or giving constructive criticism. And I see a lot of backlash from people in terms of not just my critique, but I've seen other people who give criticism and get very harsh backlash for being critical of the game in any way. And there's the word that's hater or hating that's thrown around a lot. So it's just an easy way to label someone who says something you don't like. And this is what I still have a hard time just getting the understanding the notion that people, most of us claim that we want to hear the truth no matter what. We all say that. We all claim like, hey, you know what? I just want the truth. I do it. Everybody does it. But I feel like that ends the moment you hear something that you don't want to hear. So in reality, we don't really want the truth. We want to hear what we want to hear. And if you hear something you wanted to hear and you like it, then you're receptive to that, to hearing that opinion. The moment you hear something you just didn't want to hear, you don't want to know, then it's negative. Then it's like, oh, you're just being a hater. Stop complaining. I've actually seen people now. There's actually people making videos for the sole purpose of complaining about complainers. like myself or someone else, I have people constantly telling me, making claims that I'm a hater and that all I do is complain. While I am critical, I feel like I've been critical in a constructive way. I go out of my way to explain why I feel the way I feel. And people just want to say like, oh, that's your criticism has no validity because you're just being a hater. And they don't even watch my whole video a lot of times, because a lot of times you see all these dislikes. They come boom, 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 5 minutes after I put a video up, and the video's like 20 minutes long. So you already gave your opinion of the video without watching the whole video. It's pretty obvious. So what do you get out of that? What's your big accomplishment for just coming out and calling me a hater and putting up a dislike? I really don't care how many dislikes you give. I've said it before, and I'll say it straight up right now again. I don't make money doing this. This isn't something I do for attention. I don't do this to make money. This is a passion of mine. NASCAR, video games, and if you look at my videos, I don't even have that many videos. And the vast majority of the videos that I have made are in relation to NASCAR video games. So you can't even say that I have some ulterior motive, like, oh, this guy's just here for attention. Look at he puts all kinds of videos up. Not that there's anything wrong with people who actually make a living doing this. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. I care about NASCAR games, and I want to see the best possible products. You're not going to get that by just lavishing nothing but praise and ignoring obvious issues. Now, if you want to tell me you disagree with me, I don't care, no problem. Tell me why you disagree with me and keep it moving. You want to dislike my videos? I don't care. Dislike them a million times. Doesn't mean anything, because my ultimate goals are to get the word out so that we get better products. Now, if you go back, watch the first bunch of videos that I did were about Utechnics NASCAR games. And as you could imagine, yeah, they were pretty damn negative. And I had reason to be negative about the game. But I was constantly attacked that I was being a hater, that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm stupid, get a life. This is the typical juvenile reaction people have to hearing what they don't want to hear. Because they want me to say how great everything is when everything is not so fucking great. And just because you're criticizing a product doesn't mean that you're trying to destroy it. You're trying to help the developers come to terms with the issues that the game has and what people want from these games, so that they can improve these games. So if you don't believe me, just watch DMR's initial announcement when they first came out with the announcement that they were going to make the next NASCAR game. One of the first things they told everyone was, we have nothing to do with Utechnics, even though they bought out the rights or the materials that were owned by Utechnics. They were publishing the final game, but they had nothing to do with making it. They made all of these things abundantly clear to everyone, and they made sure to tell people, we have nothing to do with Utechnics. We are building this game from the ground up. Brand new game. Why do you think they went out of their way to make sure that message was out there? They're not stupid. They saw the negative backlash against Utechnics and their shitty NASCAR games. I'm not telling you they saw what I said directly, but I was reflecting what many people were saying. And I was on the forums for Utechnics all the time. And I used to get into arguments all the time with people that were telling me the same thing that you see now It's just their first game. They're a small developer. You complain too much. This doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. One of the biggest complaints I had with Utechnics, besides the AI, which was atrocious, was the lack of statistics. How do you have a career mode with no, or virtually no statistics? You have to have a full compilation of statistics, everything you do in the game that you can follow and keep in track of. And they, in all of the games they made, they completely ignored that. The only sports games I've ever seen that had no stats. You don't think that's important? You don't think that's something that should have been criticized? And I got attacked for it. So, these developers, they may pay attention, they may not, but I decided I'm going to make some videos, talk about the issues that I felt were important, in the hopes that somehow the word gets out. And even if they don't pay attention to me, they may pay attention to someone else. But believe me, there's always someone paying attention. So when DMR came out and they clearly made that statement, we are not Utechnics, this is a whole new company, we're not using any of anything related to Utechnics. We are building this game from the ground up. Why do you think they did that? Because they knew. They knew that there was an attachment to Utechnics and that they knew people were thinking, this game's going to suck. This is just an extension of Utechnics. And they wanted to make sure that you knew, no, this is not Utechnics. We are building this game from the ground up. So I'm commending them for doing that. It's a good thing that they're doing that. But you still have to hold them accountable for whatever information they release. Of course, the game's not out yet. I'm not giving a final verdict on the game. But all of my criticism has been focused on the information that has been released. If they release gameplay footage, is nobody supposed to mention obvious flaws? No. You criticize it constructively, and lo and behold, you see improvements. The ride heights, people were complaining about that. Once again, people were crying about, oh, you guys complain over anything. Who cares about ride heights? It's not important. Well, apparently DMR thought it was important, because if you've seen with the latest footage, it's been fixed. Now, I'm not telling you they fixed it because of me, but I think it's safe to say they're paying attention to people on Twitter or even YouTube, social media of any kind. They're paying attention. So if enough people voice their concerns, of course they're going to listen. They're going to try to fix things. If you don't complain, they're going to say, well, why should we spend extra time, extra resources on fixing things if everyone is just like, don't complain. It's fine the way it is. This is a business. They're not going to take their ball and go home and leave the court because people are complaining. They're big boys. They're here. This is a multi-million-dollar business. They want your money. And this is the reason, this gaming community mentality that you have to defend everything that developers do and never complain. Because why? You're so scared that they're not going to make the game? I'll never understand that frame of mind. And I do understand that there are people who only just say negative stuff just for the hell of it. But before you call me a hater, why don't you actually sit through a video and really focus on what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And if you do that and you have working brain cells, you'll understand. Okay, maybe I don't agree with you, but I understand why you're saying what you're saying. I kind of get why you would think that. But I disagree because of this. And then maybe give your point. But when you come on and in 2 minutes in, you give your dislike and you start, oh, this guy's just a hater, get a life, you don't know what you're talking about, all you do is complain, quit crying. This is why we had one disaster after the next with Utechnics. Because I got into these same arguments. And in the forums, I used to have arguments with the same people all the time. And they used to tell me the same excuses every time. It's just their first game. They're not as big as EA. Blah, blah, blah. It's always an excuse. I don't get it, and I never will. But I think there's a big difference between quote-unquote hater, which to me is a shitty fucking label to put on somebody. If you're not willing to really give them a fair listen, that's just a label you throw on people to say what you say has no validity, and it really doesn't matter what you think. It's a way to dismiss somebody's opinion. You don't have to agree with someone, but oh, you're a hater. How old are we? Come on. You can't put up a more adult argument. And then there's constructive criticism, and I firmly believe I've gone out of my way to be constructive with my criticism. And some of my criticism may be about things that you may not deem important, but just because it's not important to you, it could be important to somebody else. Case in point, online multiplayer. I've done nothing but praise DMR, but they haven't shown us anything yet. But I praise them because their intent is to push 40 players, and they've already said they're going to use a dedicated server. That's all great news. And I can praise them for the intent because it's never been done before with 40 players online. So the intent to do something new and innovative, pushing the envelope and trying something that's never been done before, which is difficult, that's where I give developers wiggle room to make mistakes. And if they can't get 40 players and it turns out to be just 32 for argument's sake, I'll still praise it because I'll say, hey, they're trying. They're trying to go in the right direction. They're putting work into it, and I have to praise the effort because it's never been done before. I'm hard on these guys when it's about things that I feel there's no excuse. Now, I've come to accept it is what it is. The paint boof's not going to be in. The track bar, whatever. I've come to accept it. That doesn't make it right. But these are things we've had in past games. There were track bar adjustments during racing in Eutechnics games. Even though some of it was glitchy, whatever the case is, for me, I can't just dismiss it like it's nothing. So, that is what it is. The paint booth, I'm sorry, but that's a big deal to me. The online multiplayer, I'm not as into online multiplayer as other people. But I realize that just because I'm not as into it, how would that sound if I said, it's not a big deal, I could care less? That's not cool. Most people, that's what they're looking for. That's important to them. So it's important for me to look at it from that frame of mind, not from my personal, I only care about offline career mode. Well, that's not right for me to dismiss online multiplayer. I know it's important, so I looked at it. I looked at what they're telling us. They haven't shown us anything yet, so there's still room to criticize if you see certain things. But I'm giving them a wide berth when it comes to that because they're being innovative. They're pushing something fresh, something new, something innovative. But these other things that we've had years ago, and I think a lot of these people that come on and just call you a hater or you don't know what you're talking about, all you do is complain. I don't know how many of these people even realize that some of these really solid games we used to get way back in the day existed. So to them, all they know is Eutechnics. So that for them, it's like, okay, that's the bar. That's not the bar. You got to go and look back, research, and figure out what we used to get and what we get today, and you'll realize that. And I'm not just talking about NASCAR games. I'm talking about gaming in general. For the most part, there's some great games out there, but in general, we get less content than we used to get. You get games now released that need patches. You get games, because they have less content, now they can sell you DLC later for things that we used to get as part of the game, as a package. So now they can squeeze more money out of you beyond the initial $60 purchase. I'm not talking about DMR right now. I'm talking about gaming in general, the state of gaming. And the reason that this has become the norm is because of people who complain about people complaining. So when you have people out there defending the things developers do, no matter what, this is what has led to this state that we're in, where you get less content and you're paying for DLC, and you get games that need constant patches. Doesn't happen with every game, but I'm just speaking in general terms. So I truly believe that the lack of constructive criticism and the willingness for people within the gaming community to attack people who just dare criticize any part of what developers are doing, that has led to the current state of game development today. Now, right now, as we stand, just from the limited amount of information we've received, gameplay videos, stuff like that, for the most part, I am mostly positive about DMR. I have constantly said that I believe these guys have the best of intentions. They look like they really care about this game, and it's starting to show. So, while I have been critical of certain aspects of this game's development up to this point, overall, with each and every passing day as they've released little by little more and more info, I have grown more positive. I'm rooting for these guys. I want to see a great NASCAR game. It's the only reason I make these videos. It's not to just be negative. But if you don't have people who are willing to be fair and constructive in looking at a product, how can the developer ever know where there needs to be improvement? And why should they even care about improving a product when everybody's defending the product? Doesn't make sense that they would want to invest time and money when they could say, well, let's just rehash the game every year with new paint schemes. They're happy with it. They're going to buy it no matter what. It's a business. This is the way business people think. They're only going to invest money when they absolutely have to. So we have to tell them, listen, we want Paint Booth. We want 3 series. Personally, I think that all 3 series in a game can wait until everything else is up to great standards. But I can't dismiss people's desire to have all 3 series. We used to have these things 10 years ago and beyond. So these are things that I'm going to be a little stricter on when it comes to my criticism. The online multiplayer, no. That's different. That's innovative. They're trying something new. That's the difference. But don't tell me that I'm being a hater because I dare criticize the fact that there's not going to be a paint booth, there's no track bar adjustments or things of that nature, or that awful glare on the car is still there. Again, overall the game looks good. The graphics are good. But people only want to hear what they want to hear, not really the truth. We all say, yeah, I want the hard truth no matter what, but you don't really want it. Because the minute you hear something that you consider negative, something you didn't want to hear, because all you want to hear is rainbows and fairy tales about how awesome this game's going to be. We don't know what it's going to be, but we have every right to pick apart the things that have been released to us. There's a reason they release information to you, so you can see it. They want to build up hype for the game. And in a lot of senses, they've been successful because I'm hyped for the game now because of the AI. I see the way that it's more stable and it's looking good. And when I saw that last lap where the the Brad Keselowski car, in the AI was blocking Jeff Favignano, that's his name, for that last pass on the last lap. I never saw that before in any game, so I'm hyped. That's a great thing, and I commend DMR for it. But believe me, they're not children. They're not going to cry when you criticize something. They're going to work on it. They lowered the right height of the car to the proper height, which is something that everybody out there that likes to whine and complain about complainers were saying, it's not important. Why are you guys complaining? Well, guess what? They fixed it. So, I don't know what else to say. It's as clear as I can be. I care about these games. I don't do this for money. I don't do this for any other reason than I want to see the best possible games. I'm going to put out a video in the future about my ideas on which direction to go in adding things to make the career mode better. But I can't do it now. I'm going to wait till the game is out. And I'm going to give what I consider my honest critique of the game. Bad, good, and whatever the case may be, when the game is released. I realize the game's not out yet, so nothing I say is a final judgment on the game as a whole, but I'm taking it as the information's released. This game, as of now, after what I saw over the week, at the end of the last week with the live feed, is more positive than negative, and it's getting better. So I judged it accordingly. There are still things that I'm unsure of. Like I said, the physics, I can't judge because that's physics are something you almost really have to play the game. You're not going to get any sense of it from watching video. But from what little I could say, I have little criticisms about the physics and stuff like that. The way that the car bounces off the wall, it's like a pinball machine. Doesn't happen. I mean, I've seen it once or twice. So I don't want to make a big deal out of it because they're probably still working on it. It may not be the final thing, but that's something I used to see with Eutechnics, and it's concerning. So I'm not going to bite my tongue about it. And the fact that it seems like you can hold the car wide open at almost every track, but I'm also taking into account that, was it on simulator? What's the difficulty setting? All that stuff. It's still unclear. So I'm not going to go overboard with it. But I saw some of that, so I have to point it out. They're saying the game's going to feel like the cars are heavy the way they're supposed to. You shouldn't, there should be a lot of off-throttle time in the corners and stuff like that. It should be difficult to drive. It's hard to tell so far from the videos we've seen how the physics really are. So that I have to reserve judgment. But the AI, the stability, the way they ride around the track, it looks like a huge improvement. So I'm more positive than negative. So that's where we are. But I really think this thing where people are just going around calling people haters the minute they hear something negative from somebody, it's just an automatic response. It's juvenile. And I'm not going to keep defending my criticism of the game, whether it's positive or negative. I'm not going to do it anymore. That's why I wanted to put this video out, to give people something to think about, maybe give your opinion, but to actually see people starting to make videos where the sole purpose of the video is to bitch and moan about people like me bitching and moaning about the game, telling us, and then making fun of how we're criticizing it. You're making fun of people who are trying to improve this product. Keep that in mind. And if it weren't for people like me and all these other guys doing videos who are being fair in criticizing the game, you would still have games like the Eutechnics games. The reason that DMR, when they took this on, and they said, we're going to build this game from the ground up, we can't use anything from the Eutechnics library. We have to make sure that the blueprint of this game is solid, and then work off of that. They realized that, but they didn't come to that realization on their own. It's listening to criticism. The negative criticism of all of you Technics' titles had to have something to do with it. So if everyone was like people who are upset to hear criticism, you'd never see what you're seeing with DMR, the improvements that we're seeing. You wouldn't see it. So keep that in mind. And this is the last I'm going to talk about my, criticisms of the game. And, I'm just going to go about my business. And if I got to criticize the game, I'm going to criticize it. I'm not going to just say nice things just to appease people and tell them what they want to hear. And that's what it boils down to, in my opinion. People want to hear only what they want to hear, the good stuff. I want to hear how awesome this game is and how everything is great and there's nothing wrong with it. I want to hear that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be fair and honest in my opinion. Doesn't mean that I know that everything I say is a 100% fact. I do the best I can. I'm using my judgment on the little information we have, which is always subject to change. Which is why I've said this game looks better and better as the more I see it. But even though there's good things that are popping up, there are also negative things, just like when the whole thing with the track bar not being part of the online, the racing, while you're racing, you can't do track bar adjustments. When I heard that, that's a negative that popped up, and you damn right I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to be critical about it. So, if you can't handle the criticism, don't watch the videos. Just go watch DMR's promotional videos and give all the likes you want. You can give me all the dislikes you want. It doesn't matter because I don't do this for money. Not once have I ever said in any video, please like and subscribe. There's nothing wrong with people doing that. But just keeping it real. I only do this out of my love for NASCAR and NASCAR games. And I want to see great games again. We had some really great games. And we can have that again. And even better. So I want DMR, when they hear something I have to say or someone else has to say, to take it for what it is, constructive criticism. And try to keep giving us the things we want in a game. And that's it. So what do you guys think? And I look forward to your comments.